A lot of you have asked for more detailed range test videos. That's what we're going to be doing with every EV that we test here at Alex & Autos and EV Buyer's Guide. Let's roll through the test procedure just very briefly here so you know what's going on. If you want to see what the test procedure is like in greater detail, there's a link down there in the description, and there is a full article on it over on the website. But basically, it's a 246-mile test loop. There are 4 stages. The bulk of the test is done on country highway or interstate highway, so speeds of between 55 and about 75 miles an hour or so. There is some elevation change. The vehicle will go up and over an 1,800-foot mountain pass, and there's a section with rolling hills. Although there are a few stoplights on this route, the majority of the time is spent with the vehicle in motion, and this entire test, 246 miles in the Model S, took 4 hours and 12 minutes. The purpose of this test is to simulate the kind of range you should expect in a new EV when you're on a road trip, the kind of situation that most people think of when they think of EV range. It is worth knowing that the 405 miles of rated EPA window sticker range on the Model S ends up at 388 miles by the EPA if you put into the fueleconomy.gov website calculator 100% highway driving. So 405 miles in combined cycle driving. If you're in highway driving, according to the EPA test, 388 miles. Now, my real-world range figure for this Model S, which again was the 405-mile rated model, ends up at 337 miles. Still a fantastic number, considering this goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat, has 2 motors, and it's a pretty big sedan. Now for some of the details. The test started off at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. As usual, we let the Model S pre-start itself so that way it could warm up the cabin while it was plugged in. Maximum temperature on this route was 73 degrees, so not a lot of battery conditioning was going on. Over the 246-mile trip, 73% of the battery was consumed, and that ends up at 3.55 miles per kilowatt hour. That is pretty much in line with what the vehicle was saying consumption-wise, 282 watt-hours per mile if you prefer Tesla's method. Calculating that out, the battery pack has 95 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. That brings us to 337 miles of range. Although some folks will be disappointed by this score because it's not 405 miles of range, I will remind you of a few things. The first one, again, window sticker is not pure highway range. It is a blend of city and highway, and actually 55% city, 45% highway. So if you go over to fueleconomy.gov, look up the Model S, and in the personalize option, hit the personalize button, you put in 0% for city driving or stop-and-go driving, you will end up with 388 miles of EPA range in that vehicle. The other factor you should know about is that the EPA essentially allows manufacturers 2 different methods for calculating EPA fuel efficiency. You can either run the entire suite of tests and then calculate your own modifier for modifying that data and crunching it into an EPA fuel economy estimate, or you can run only the basic suite of tests, accept the default modifier, and that will generally yield a lower number when it comes to range. So far, Tesla always chooses the calculation method that will give them the biggest window sticker range number. Other manufacturers, they have different priorities. Sometimes they will choose the cheaper route, which is to run the fewer test cycles, accept the default modifier, have a smaller number, and then an even smaller number of EV manufacturers apparently then take voluntary reductions on top of that number to make the number more real world according to that manufacturer. Although some folks are offended by the way that Tesla chooses to calculate their numbers, they're not the only one. Audi did that with the original e-tron as well. Personally, I just wish that there was one standard that was rigid enough that there was not this kind of variation in the testing procedure. That way we could actually make an honest comparison, apples to apples, and that is not something that we can do now. Generally speaking, the average Tesla out there will fall a little bit below its EPA score, especially if we're talking about pure highway driving, and some other EVs may actually poke up just a little bit above the EPA score, and that's simply due to the way the testing was done. Be sure and let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below, and let me know what kind of detail you'd like in future range test videos here at EV Buyer's Guide as well. In the meantime, be sure and check out the full Model S review. You'll find that in 2 parts over on the Alex & Autos channel. Then we'll have some additional Model S versus the competition content right here on EV Buyer's Guide. I'll see all of you later, and in the meantime, the rest of the time-lapse footage for the range test will just continue to scroll right there on your screen. Range testing is going to be done in every EV that we do here at Alex & Autos, although I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do a complete video on every one. I might actually just dump the raw footage on YouTube and have it as an unlisted video with a link in the description. Let me know how you think about that as well.